For more on this, France 24's international affairs commentator Douglas Herbert joins me on set. Hi, Douglas. So these sanctions, of course, do go further than what we've seen in the past. What message is Biden trying to send?
Trying to send a message that the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu needs to do something to clamp down, to rein in what the Biden administration and many others perceive as spiraling out of control violence by Israeli settlers living in the West Bank. Remember, the West Bank, separate from Gaza, home to about 2.5 million Palestinians. Extremists, as they would see them, Israeli settlers who have basically felt emboldened, empowered by the Hamas attacks last October 7th against Israel. And what have they done? They have gone on, in some cases, not all of them, some of them, going on the attack against Palestinians, trying to kick them off their land, burning their fields, other types of acts. And it has raised more than just eyebrows among the Biden administration, but among many in America who also fear that the West Bank, not just Gaza, but the West Bank, if this type of violence is allowed to continue to be perpetuated, it could be the spark for that so-called feared broader conflagration. That is, the violence and this conflict spilling over well beyond Gaza, through the West Bank and into other areas. And that is something just about everyone, not just in the U.S., but in the U.S., in the international community, wants to avoid. These sanctions are meant to send a loud and clear message, yes, to Israel. You need to do more. Netanyahu has hit back or responded by saying that we do take action. Obviously, we don't condone any of these types of activity. There's no need to take exceptional steps against these settlers. These types of actions are obviously illegal under Israeli law. Biden administration is basically saying do more about it. But obviously, and you alluded to this in your introduction, this is also a message aimed in the heat of a campaign season in the United States at those Arab Americans, a very strong Arab American community, and not just, but also Muslim community. Also minority and black voters, many of them who are appalled and then some at what they see as the Biden administration's overweening sympathy and empathy for Israel and support of Israel and lack of empathy for Palestinians. Obviously, the Biden administration will counter that is far from the case. And these types of sanctions, which are really both financial, political, travel bans, but also cutting the settlers off from the financial system, from access to American property or assets, and really any commerce from any Americans. All of these are aimed at sending that message that we are also very much on the side of Palestinians and protecting their lives and their well-being.
The timing then, of course, probably not a coincidence. It remains to be seen, though, whether or not it's a strategy that'll pay off ahead of November.
Yeah. Look, Michigan, we all call it, right? The cliche term, a swing state, a battleground state. And why do we use that term? We use it because Michigan has 15 electoral votes. It is almost always closely fought. Biden beat Trump in Michigan by a little over 150,000 votes back in 2020. Trump won by even less in 2016, about 11,000 votes. It is a hotly contested state, and many people say that the election path, the electoral path to Biden being reelected has to include Michigan's 15 electoral votes. If he loses Michigan, the electoral math becomes difficult. Add on to that, Michigan is home to a very large Arab American population, a population that has been incensed, and often more than incensed, at what I was saying before, at what they see as the Biden admission's signal lack of support for Palestinians and over support for Israel as they see it. And this is why Biden is making a pitch. Now, not explicitly on yesterday's campaign tour. His stops were at a black-owned restaurant in the state, right? And also he met with workers from the United Auto Workers Union who have endorsed him very strongly. He studiously avoided, as the American press is commenting, studiously seemed to avoid any one-on-one meetings or confrontations with members of the Arab American community. And that's where it gets difficult. There are some in that community who basically say he can run, but he can't hide. And what they mean by that is he can avoid them now, but he does it at his own risk, because then they will vote at the polls. I will just note there was a poll by Zogby strategists. They do a lot of polls in October, which showed that Biden's support among Arab Americans, not just in Michigan, but all across the U.S., plummeted from 2020's election, where he had about 59% support, 6 out of 10 Arab Americans, to, you might be surprised by the number, to less than 20%, 17%. That is a 42 decline in one election. Biden is desperate. He knows he needs to get back at least some of that support, if not a very large chunk of it, if he wants to have a chance of cobbling together the type of young, progressive, and minority coalition that brought him to office in 2020.
Very little time to do that, especially as the war rages on, really, with no end in sight. Doug Herbert, thank you very much.